Sako? Sako. Sako. Sako rifles. Made in Finland. The great north, great frozen north of mystical Finland. A mystical place where the golden streams flow from Lapland. Mystic place of frozen legend and wonder and very good heavy metal. So what we got in the shop here is a Sako 75 bolt action rifle. Very nice example. All original wooden stock. Nicely checkered. With their insignia here in the grip cap. Detachable box magazine. Flush mount, very sleek. A nicely blued finish. Bolt is left in the white. The Sako 75 is a bolt-action rifle produced by Finnish manufacturer Sako from 1996 until it was replaced by its successor, the Sako 85 in 2006, and finally discontinued in 2007. Sadly. The Sako 75 was named after the 75-year anniversary of Sako in 1996, when the first Sako 75 was made. The Model 75 was externally very similar to early Sako models, but its construction was different, having 3 symmetrical locking lugs, a manual ejector, and a detachable magazine. Hitherto, only one Sako rifle, the L46, had a detachable magazine. The rifle was marketed as Sako's premium model for hunting, and was delivered in many different configurations and chamberings. Examples of some Sako 75 models are the Hunter, Hunter Stainless, Hunter Left Hand, Laminated Stainless, Deluxe, Synthetic Stainless, Finlight, Varmint, and Varmint Laminated Stainless. The trigger pull weight is adjustable between 1 and 2 kilograms. The action can be cycled with the safety applied. I don't think that's correct. No. Safety on, and that is locking the old bolt there, so that is wrong. The scope sight in the receiver bridge is a proprietary tapered dovetail rail with variable width. Narrower at the rear, wide at the front. Because the rifle recoils rearward when it fires, forcing anything on top forward, so that counteracts any kind of recoil. So that's pretty clever. Although very limited as to what the heck you can do with it. But we'll get into that in a little while. We got a remedy for that. Proprietary scope rings are available, and aftermarket Picatinny rail adapters are also available. The entirety of the bolt, including its handle, is milled from a single piece of cast steel. So yeah, they'll cast these and then they machine them out. The Sako 75 has a push-feed mechanism, compared to its successor, Sako 85, which has controlled feeding. The M75 and M85 also have different types of magazines. This one is apparently just a flush magazine and probably holds 3 rounds. Maybe 5, probably 3. This particular rifle is chambered in 7 shooting times Western. So those are big, fat, long cartridges. I'm thinking probably only 3, maybe 4, I doubt 5. I don't know. I don't have a box of 7 shooting times Western right now, so I'll have to just guess on that. The receiver was delivered in 6 different lengths depending on the cartridge group, graded with Roman numerals from 1 to 5. So this one is marked with a 5. Hopefully you can see that. Sako 5. So that would make sense because this is a Magnum. 7 shooting times Western. Right in there, pretty close to the stock. 7 STW. Shooting times Western. If you had a Roman numeral 1, that would be their short action, which would house a 222 Remington, 223 Remington. Very short. The Roman numeral 2 was 22 PPC, 6mm PPC, stuff like that. The Roman numeral 3 was your 22 250s, 243 Winchesters, 260 Remingtons, 7mm 08s, 308 Winchester. The SM, which I guess they just decided to not give that a Roman numeral, but the SM stands for short magnum, like your Wisms and such. The Roman numeral 4 was the long action, the standard long action, so 30-06 style cartridges, 6.5 by 55 Swede, 7 by 64, 9.362, and so forth. And the 5, which is this example here, was the Magnums, 7mm Rem Mag, 300 Win Mag, 375 H&H, stuff like that. And obviously the 7 STW. So a little bit about the rifle beyond the technical aspects there. I did mention the tri-lug. Whoa. So 3 lugs, 1, 2, 3, which is beneficial for a few reasons. You get more lug contact within the receiver, and you get a nifty 70-degree bolt throw. So your bolt handle is held away from your scope quite a bit, rather than being right here. I don't know if I can get this angle on the camera. Yeah, there's the bolt open, there's closed. So that's well out of the way of a scope. So that's pretty cool. You've got a cocked indicator on the striker. So when it's fired, obviously that disappears. But when it's exposed, you know it is cocked and ready for firing. Thumb operated safety here on the side, which does, there it is. Okay, so I was wrong. I was wrong earlier, sorry about that. You can operate it on safe, you just have to push down here. There it goes. See, so still on safe, off safe. Yeah, I forgot about that. So push down, and you can operate the bolt with the safety on. It's a little clunky. But anyway, that's a feature. Side bolt release, as standard on these Sakos. Just a sleek looking kind of shroud there. Some stippling on it, or some sort of, oh, I think there's a better term for that, whatever it is, whatever it's called. That fancy pattern there on the back of the bolt shroud. There is no face-loaded ejector, so that's pretty cool. That's nice. There's a passive mechanical ejector inside the receiver that, so when the bolt comes back, it sticks up through here and knocks the cartridge out that way. And we got a, what do you know, a Sako style extractor. So that's where your Sako variation of the extractors come from. This guy right here. This is the OG for that style of extractor. Kind of like the M16 better myself. but it still is a very good, strong extracting mechanism. Right, so there's that. The stock has these recoil reinforcers in there. So those are just through bolts that just kind of hold the stock tight like that, giving it a little more rigidity. So yeah, let's get into this. Let's see here. We got on the bottom, we got 2 action screws. One back here behind the trigger guard, one up front. Ahead of the magazine latch. Magazine is very easily inserted and removable. Clicks into place, stays put. You just pull on this backwards and it kind of pops out. It'd be easier if it was actually upside down. There's your magazine, right? All right, and then screws, slotted screws, unfortunately, but hey. Okay. And then that whole thing just comes right off. The stock is nicely inletted for everything. The bottom metal is very sleek and thin. Looks like it's a 2-piecer. So your trigger guard gets screwed into the main magazine well portion. Guess that saved some production stuff, I guess. I don't know. That is all steel. That's actually nice. Very nice, all steel design there. Very strong, like a Finnish Viking warrior. Yeah, and then there's those reinforcement, I don't remember what you call those things. And this one is hidden, goes through there. And a old hard red recoil pad that could be replaced, but I don't know. Don't think the customer wants that replaced. And then a sling swivel stud and a sling swivel stud. So that's the stock. So the Sako 75 is in the shop for a full rebuild. So we're gonna get the barrel off. We're gonna give it a full blueprint job. So we're gonna go in and true the receiver, threads, lug abutments, and face. We are going to double sleeve the bolt. Lugs will be trued up, the face will be trued up, and it will be lapped in under the trigger, like I always do with the blueprinting service. So we're gonna give it a full blueprint and trigger job of some sort, see what kind of stuff we can do with the trigger. Trigger is a typical trigger. Fairly complicated system here. So we've got a cocking piece on the striker, like normal, which is going to be held back by the sear right there, this part. So yeah, that just falls down, the sear falls rearward, releasing your cocking piece, sending the striker forward into the cartridge primer. The safety appears to have a bolt lock there. So this round peg kind of jumps up, and that's how you defeat it when you want to open the bolt without turning the safety off. There's your bolt lock. And you can see in that little window, it's just pushing that plunger down out of the way. So there's some adjustment screws, one there, and actually that looks like it's all you get. We'll get into the trigger later on, but yeah, fairly nice feeling trigger. Very crisp, really no pre-travel or creep. It's not super light, but it's not super heavy. But it's very crisp. Absolutely no creep. And a little over travel, but nothing. Once it's a little heavy, so you really don't even notice that. I reckon that screw back there is going to be your way to pull, probably. Recoil lug here is stout, fairly fine for a recoil lug, sure. But looks like it's held in by a set screw, so you can remove that. I guess that was probably just manufacturing decision there to save on some time and costs. They just milled a slot through there and separated the recoil lug. My guess, since we're talking about the trigger, let's get the trigger off. Yeah, so got your self-contained, all-contained trigger. No separate stuff to juggle with. Anyway, there's the trigger. Then, look at that. There's another moving part. That's your ejector. So you can see it swinging out of the way when the bolt's like that, and then it swings down and knocks out your cartridge. Looks like that's held in by this cross pin here. There is a spring under there. Yep, there's a spring under there. So this pin is probably easily removable. See if I can't just pull this guy out. Yep. That works just like I suspected. So there's just the pin. It's just held in there by spring tension. And then the ejector. Ooh, dual springs. Check that out. Dang, Finland. Sako. So we got 2 springs. Oh, God. Tiny little springs I don't want to lose. And then the ejector. Looks like a cast part, probably a MIM, metal injection molded. Okay, and then the bolt stop / release. Probably the same thing, yep. You just yank out the old pin. That's, even Tikas today are made the same way. And we got the bolt stop / release, and it's sprang right there. The bolt stop / release has some stippling or whatever that is called on there. It's not checkering. Yeah, it kind of looks like checkering. I don't know. So that's everything there. Short of your magazine latch. Okay, that one was a little snugger. There's your pin for the magazine latch. And yep, there's a spring and the latch catch right there. Okay, and then that is held in by a Torx bit. The bolt, oh, we still have to take the bolt apart. Sorry. As my usual fashion, I'm just going all over the place here. So let's get set up differently and get this bolt apart. Let's try to get this out. This is a little tricky. You gotta fish something in there, push that down, and then wiggle this out. This is why I don't like Sako style extractors very much, because they're just a pain in the to get out. How often do you need to get them out? Well, I guess that's true. No, most people don't, but I do. Make my life easier, guys. God. So let me see. Usually you can use a little thin screwdriver. Yeah. I know these come out. Okay, let's try a magnet. Not a maggot, but a magnet. God dang it. Come on. Come on, extractor. What about a pointy device? Dang it. Criminy. Try the old hook technique. Oh, wow. There we go. Okay, I think it's coming now. So the spring is now captured under there, but okay. Oh God, Jesus. Yes, there we go. Okay. Ooh, now that was close. Okay, there is the extractor. There is the plunger that almost flew into the abyss of lost parts. And there should be a spring under there. Yep, there's the spring. Little tiny guy. Okay, that is the extractor extracted from the bolt. Now, what I had to do, you see, this plunger gets kinda, goes like that, and goes over this little lip. So you gotta push it down far enough to clear that lip in order for this to just come out. So that's all that's holding that in, is that lip and the pressure of the spring and the plunger back here, which also doubles as your pivot that keeps this pushing into the bolt face. So very simple design and reliable and everything. It's just a pain in the butt to get out. Getting it in is easier, believe it or not. So the hard part's done. Hooray. Okay, now with the Sako bolts, they're a lot like they're not threaded in the body. There's no threads on the shroud, which is going to make my life a little bit more difficult for the blueprinting job, but that's my problem, not yours. So what you do is you simply have to turn this slightly in this direction. Just turn it slightly, and then it'll pop right on out. So let's see if we can do that on camera here without... Yep, there we go. Okay, so see, there's your spring and a thingy on the spring that goes into the bolt shroud right there. And then your striker firing pin follows out right behind it. Isn't that clever? And then, so there's two little nubs. Two little nubs on the shroud that fit into a groove, which just holds it all in there. And when you want to take it out, you align those nubs with the grooves and it comes right out. Okay. So there you go. There is the bolt stripped and ready for truing up, improving on. So that's everything disassembled. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna get this barrel off. It's gonna be step one, getting the barrel off. Once that comes off, we're gonna evaluate the receiver qualify the bolt bore raceway. We're going to find out the size. With some bushings, we'll figure that out and then get it in the jig and do the trimming cuts. All right, for the bolt, I've already made the custom sleeves for the bolt. So we will get these sleeves installed and turned down to the appropriate diameter for the bolt bore raceway. True up the bolt, lap it in if necessary with the trigger. Do all that good stuff as part of the whole blueprinting process and my package deal. Stuff things, yes. Here is the new barrel that we are going to install. It is a Bartlein number 4, I think it's number 4 contour. It's a little bigger and heavier than the original barrel. So anyway, we got the twist rate. It's an 8 twist barrel. 1 and 8 twist for a 7 STW. Should be real nice. It's going to have to be turned down slightly here on the shank because Sakos have this fanciness on the front of their actions, the face there, so it should fit like that. The larger, if I were to leave it there at 1.2, it would look stupid. So we're going to turn down the shank to match this one, which is 1.125, 1 inch and an 1/8. The stock will have to be inletted for the new barrel. The new barrel is a little too fat for the stock, so that's going to have to be inletted again. It's what the customer wanted. He wanted heavier, longer, heavier, and fatter. So there's enough wood there. We can do it. Don't be scared. Yes, we are longer by, 3 or 4 inches there. 1 inch is going to be cut off. This is 29, so it's going to end up at 28. So it looks like about 3 inches longer than the original. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. Oh yeah, and here is the Picatinny rail replacement, well, the adapter. So this goes on top of the Sako proprietary style mounting wedges. You'll see the product later on when we're assembling it, but Recknagel. We'll get into that when the time comes. Got a Manson finishing reamer for this job. 7mm STW. Okay, so let's get the barrel off. So we're doing this to hopefully expand the receiver a little bit. I don't want to get it crazy hot, but it's going to need some heat at the very least here. There it goes. Okay. Yep, just need a little heat. So we'll let that cool. It's not that hot. Take the wrench off. Success. Those big, strong Finnish Vikings, man. They, very strong. No thread locker. The threads are a very nice fit. There we go. There is the receiver. And obviously, as you see, I had to take off all the works on the bottom there because it was getting in the way of the cutter and whatnot. But hey. Okay, we'll get this on the bench and look at it a little closer, see what we got to work with and stuff. And I'll get this in the parts washer, give it a bath real quick too, get all that love in there cleaned out. Okay, I got the barrel off, everything's cleaned up, which now allows us to further investigate the specifications of the action and barrel and what's needed to be done. Looking pretty typical in there of a receiver that's not been trued up yet. But a couple things, we got a through hole here for the action screw. It comes all the way up through in there. Yeah, we've got a kind of a weird area that has no threads right there, right around where the action screw goes in. It's very interesting. But here is the original thread extension. We've got a flat breech, and appears to be an inch English thread, which is very surprising. So I'm going to guess the major diameter is 1 inch. So our lowest spot is about 92, or 992, that is. The minor here in the relief is 920 something, 922. So I'm thinking that's a 1 inch, and then 16 fits perfectly. 16 threads per inch. Now 1.6 metric. Kind of almost also fits, but actually not as good. So yeah, we're going to call that a 16 thread per inch. That is surprising for a finish for a European firearm. You know, not too sloppy. I'd expect that from Sako. They're a quality company, especially back in the 90s and stuff, before robots took over everything. I bet you robots made this. I mean, there's probably no doubt there, but. So, yeah. Straight flat breech. There's no cone or recess or anything there on the breech face. The nose is flat, for the most part at least, right in there. Then we got a couple bushings here from Grattan just for this purpose. So I got a 697 that fits nicely in the back, and a 6965 for the front. And this one also fits very nicely. Very light press fit, but they ain't coming out on their own. So this baby's ready to be blueprinted, trued up. So we're gonna get this installed into the blueprinting jig and do our thing to it. 16 threads per inch. Will be very straightforward, just like a Remington, just a little bit smaller in there. Let's kind of pre-fit things here as we're going. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice fit there. So luckily the thing's straight. I've had a few actions where I could get one to go in, but it wouldn't align with the back, and holy crap, that means the whole thing's warped. This one is nice and straight, and again, we're not, nothing's falling out loose or jiggling or making any kind of sounds. We can get that bar in and out, no problem. So yeah, that's perfect. and they are only half thousandths apart, 5/10,000ths difference, right? So we don't have to qualify the raceway. We don't have to mess with boring it out. I really don't like doing that. Bolt bore raceway ribbing is not, I've never enjoyed that process. If I had a way to hold it in a machine reliably and accurately, I would totally do it that way, but it's always like using a hand drill, and oh my God, it's just, I don't like it. Never liked it. Don't like to do it. And it's usually not necessary, especially in this case, we're half thousandths difference, so good deal. We're good. Very happy to see that. Let's check the bolt fit. Pretty sloppy. Pretty sloppy in there. So yeah, we can get this fixed up real nice. We've got a little clearance here, which is just good. We want that kind of thing. Let's see what we got here in terms of clearance. Not 15. There's 10. There's 12. And 13 is really, so we got 12 to 13 thousandths clearance here between the bolt handle and the receiver there, back of the receiver. And then here, looks like we got enough to kind of mess with, because truing up the abutments back here and the lugs, we got to be real careful to not cut so much that this is actually bearing back here. So let's see what that is, if we can get a measurement on that. It's 25. Oops. Cool. So we got more than 25 thousandths. So we can easily cut a few thousandths off of these surfaces without any fear of messing with any of that back there. And then the primary extraction, you see right here in that ramp. It's another thing you don't want to mess with. You want to maintain that primary extraction, obviously. When you open the bolt, that's what yanks the case out, which is $105, 106 thousandths-ish of primary extraction. So that's good. And so as I mentioned, that we got a lot of slop in there. So we got 697, we'll just call it 697, round it up. Inside the bull bore receiver, or bull bore raceway. And our bolt is measuring 690. $690 on the money up front. And a few 10 thousandths over in the back. So 7 thousandths, 6.5 to 7 thousandths, which isn't a lot actually. It sounds worse than it is. But yeah, we'll take up that slop. If you don't understand the process, I will put a link to the video somewhere in the screen, which will link you to the blueprinting explanation. So I go through the entire, why we do it. So click there and you will see, you can learn all about blueprinting, at least how we do it at Accurate Rifles and Restorations. which is the right way, the proper way, the professional way. So yeah, do that and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. Go down here and there's a little subscribe deal. You got to be logged into YouTube to do that, but log in, come back to the video and subscribe and hit the like, the thumbs up thing, hit that too for me. Do it for me. Do it for Jesus. Yeah, I think that's about all we can say here. Like I said, we'll get her in the blueprint and jig, get her in the lathe, and get you up close and personal so we can start the accurization process of this Sako 75 bolt action rifle, brand new Bartley and barrel, 7 shooting times Western.